Well, personally, I know as an Auburn fan, 2004, Auburn did get left out. But more times than not, the BCS formula did provide the best two teams, and at least the 1 and 2 teams. And so I think that the formula itself could have been helpful in this situation in particular, because they're going to, like, now that there's so many tiebreakers that I have to curb. But again, I'm just looking forward to seeing how Auburn finishes out the rest of the season, and hopefully they can keep themselves in it.
That's going to do it for us today. For Brett Pritchard, for Scott Hardy, I'm Andy Graham saying so long for now. We'll talk again soon.
Tatum Lawn Care wants to help you add value and beauty to your home or business, and they want to save you money in the process. Tatum Lawn Care offers a
I'm hearing a lot of.
At least it's going through, because normally that thing is.
Who do they play tonight?
I have no idea.
I mean, I'm so not even into the NBA.
I think the Rockets.
Hey, it's 6 o'clock already.
Hey, so are we on?
Not yet. I'm about to play the intro.
Okay, thanks.
It's time for the Lake Martin Sports Roundup, covering all local and area sports and teams, with your host, Scott Hardy, and your phone calls at 256-234-6221. Presented by Bland Insurance Group. Big on savings, big on service, big on community. If it's sports in the Lake Martin area, we cover it. The Lake Martin Sports Roundup, right now.
Good Tuesday evening, everyone, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here on location at Jar Sports Bar and Grill. I'm your host, Scott Hardy, joined beside Luke Robinson, and we'll take you through the 7 o'clock hour. And as I said, this is the Lake Martin Sports Roundup, so we try to do our best to focus on the youth as well as all of the surrounding schools in the community. And I know playoff brackets are kind of starting to get put together now, so we'll address that. Benjamin Russell and Dale both, and Reeltown, all three area teams, being able to go to the postseason. But I want to welcome in Luke. Luke, thanks for joining us tonight.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, and as I said, we try to do a lot of youth things on the show, and we'll have a special guest on, Coach Demetrius Fleecian and his flag football team. It'll be 3 weeks in a row we've had one of those. So, again, if you have anyone that you're in particular interested in the spotlighting, make sure we know. But, Luke, we'll start with Benjamin Russell first. A pretty convincing win, 24-0. Didn't really play a lot of their players defensively the whole game because they didn't really need to. They clinched the number 2 spot as well as a playoff berth. So, again, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the game from Friday.
Well, I was pretty busy on Saturday. I didn't get to see that.
Yeah. How did I let that happen? My whole thing introing was I was going to say congratulations to you about getting married. So, for those of you who didn't know, he had one of the most spectacular events happen that I've seen in a while. He and his wife now pulled off one of the most miraculous celebrations of a wedding in a very long time I've seen. So congratulations to you and Kristen.
Thank you. It was great. It was a lot of fun, but it did take away from my Friday high school football watching and listening. I usually listen to Benjamin Russell pretty religiously, and I didn't get to hear a lot of the game on Friday night, obviously, but I did know that they took care of Chilton County pretty convincingly. I thought they would. I think Obviously, that game didn't mean a whole lot. I know that Coach Horn would probably not be happy with my saying that, but now they have an off week. I think the more important thing, like you said, they didn't play all their starters probably as long as they normally would, or even all their starters at all. So I think that the more important thing is they have an off week to get ready for the playoffs, and that's what everybody is more interested in. And look, it's the second season is starting now, and I think Benjamin Russell, probably as much as any team in the state, could use this rest.
Yeah, and speaking of teams in the state, I think I saw something today, a Power 20 on some website, and Benjamin Russell was ranked number 9, and so that lets you know that the respect they're getting statewide. And 9-1 on the season, their only loss is to the number 3 team, Opelika. So again, I think Benjamin Russell is starting to turn the corner here, and they have an opportunity to really make some noise in the playoffs. And if you look at the numbers from the game, not a lot of throwing as usual. Started Tyree Gray 6 for 10 through the air for 88 yards, a touchdown and interception. But where he's been his most deadly and most lethal here of late has been on the ground. 11 carries, 103 yards, and another touchdown for him. So going forward, it's very similar. I hate to use Auburn already before we get to it, but Tyree and Nick Marshall have kind of had the same similar seasons. I think they're going to be their best when they're using their legs, and that'll help open up the passing game. As you see, a player like a Q Johnson has benefited tremendously from having Tyree's play step up, 7 catches, 77 yards, and he did receive the 1 touchdown in that game. So, again, I think the quarterback play and the maturation of him as a player has helped Benjamin Russell get to the point they are now.
Well, the thing about Benjamin Russell is their defense is so good, and they take care of the ball so well, and they're so fundamentally sound. I think they're going to be in just about every game. You keep going back to the Opelika game where they lose 23-0, but that game was so uncharacteristic. Your eyes tell you Benjamin Russell's a lot better than that. Opelika is very good. I don't want to take anything away from them. At the same time, there is without a doubt that was Benjamin Russell's worst game of the season, and it just coincided with they're playing their best team of the season. So it didn't work out for them, obviously. But I think if those two teams played again, yes, I would certainly favor Opelika, but I think that the game would definitely be in doubt into the fourth quarter. And I think Benjamin Russell is coming together and gelling so much more. That is the one drawback to the off week this week, and that's one thing that I would caution Benjamin Russell about is you've been playing so well. I mean, it seems like every week you either shut somebody out or some team gets some junk scores, and you're scoring from just about every which way imaginable. And now you're going to take an off week, so you kind of put a knife into the momentum a little. I think it's human nature to let down and sort of relax a little bit. So it's going to be up to the coaching staff, which undoubtedly is fantastic, to keep that positive momentum going. And they can do it. And I do think having Benjamin Russell as the number 9 team in the state in a power ranking statewide, I have no problem with that. I would certainly rank them in the top 10.
Yeah, and again, you've had opportunities.
Including 7A, by the way.
That is too. That is all of the schools in the state. I wanted to get your thoughts, too, because you've had an opportunity to watch a lot of Birmingham football, and the top 2 teams going forward always in 6A so far this season were Shays Valley and Clay Chalkville. Clay Chalkville took care of Shays Valley, but looking at Clay Chalkville, I think they probably are the clear favorite in 6A right now, probably followed by Opelika or Spanish Fort. What are your thoughts on 6A? And we'll talk about that after the break, too, but I wanted to get your thoughts specifically on the Birmingham area and Clay Chalkville in particular.
For the longest time on the scoreboard, Joe, I said there were 4 teams that could win it all in 6A, and I included Shades Valley, Clay Chalkville, Spanish Fort, and Opelika. Those were my 4 teams. And then as the season wore on, I began to see that Shades Valley, they've got some weaknesses. They may have the 3 of the biggest names in Rashad Louie at quarterback, and they've got Keith Mixon, who's kind of an all-purpose guy, and they've got Darren Payne, a 5-star defensive tackle. But they have some other weaknesses, and they lost to Pinson Valley this past week, and Nick Gibson, who's a Mississippi State commit, along with Keith Mixon. But so I would take Shades Valley out of that mix, and I would probably put Benjamin Russell in there. I think Benjamin Russell could win the state. I think things set up very well for them. If they end up facing Spanish Fort, the thing you got to love there, and you hate that it turned out this way if you're a Spanish Fort fan, but they lose their quarterback in Tyler Johnson, and now they've got a guy in Javon Brown who just isn't as good as Tyler Johnson. There's no shame in that. It's just that he's not, and that's why he was the backup. And they lost a game a few weeks ago, 7-0, to Daphne. And when you're shut out, and a team like Spanish Fort, you have to think, okay, there's some more issues there. Usually that team found a way to win. They had won 31 in a row at that time. I personally believe an Opelika, Clay Chalkville, I believe they could meet in the state championship. I believe those two could meet in the state championship, meaning I think Opelika is in the south and Clay Chalkville was in the north, if memory serves.
Yeah, that's pretty much how
I'd have to look at the
play
bracket.
out. But we do have those printed out, so we'll go over those.
Who would you favor in 6A right now? I mean, I know you want to go Benjamin Russell. I know your heart. But
I think Clay Chalkville is clear favorite, best team. And until somebody beats Opelika the way I think that they're – needs to happen, then I think Opelika and Clay Chalk for the two best teams. Now, before the injury to Spanish Sports quarterback, I thought that they had an opportunity to do it just because they'd been there. They had really become the Hoover of 6A and really of the state of Alabama. They were as highly recognizable and successful as Hoover. But again, I look at this Benjamin Russell team. They have an opening round game against Stanhope. Then you would play, I guess it would be Spanish Fort the next week.
I haven't seen the bracket.
I do have to if I'm not mistaken, they'd have to go through a gauntlet. Don't get me wrong.
That is a flaw in the playoff system to me. But there is no way that Benjamin Russell and Spanish Fort should have to meet in the second round. I know it's all different. I know it's the way it's always been done, but systems get tweaked all the time, and I think this system should be tweaked in a way that you don't necessarily have to match up with a certain. I think that you could have they got a committee in college football. Have a committee with the HSA and say we're going to seed these teams 1 through 32.
I actually had never thought about it that way, but that's an excellent point, and we'll discuss that on the next break. We'll go ahead and take that first break of the night. More of the Late Morning Sports Roundup show presented here live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
Three, two, one, take it away.
Welcome back into the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill in beautiful downtown Alexander City. 256-234-6221 is the number to dial in and join the show. And we've been discussing Benjamin Russell football, and we were kind of looking at some of the playoff brackets. And because of there's another game left this week, we don't necessarily know all of the teams that will fill out the region brackets, but it looks like Benjamin Russell would have an opportunity to go through without having to play a Clay Chalkville, but would have to more than likely play a team like a Spanish Fort to get to the state championship game and an Opelika too, it would appear. So it'd be a tough road for Benjamin Russell. It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, I think Brett said it would be Stanhope, McAdory, Spanish Fort, Opelika, then you play.
Well, it looks like McAdory is set up in a bracket above them. Again, it hadn't all played out yet, so we don't know for certain, but I'm just not sure who that would be. I'm curious. I don't even see where Shades Valley is on here yet either. So apparently their seeding hadn't been determined. Shades Valley just intrigues me so much because I love Keith Mixon so much. But
he is one of your favorite players.
Because Scott, and again, I would love to spend all afternoon talking about players from Alabama that Alabama and Auburn just simply passed on, and it just makes me Derunya Wilson. I lost my mind when Alabama did. I said, just offer him basketball and see what happens. And honestly, it's worked out for Derunya Wilson. Like Gary Danielson said, it's much better to be a 6'5", 215-pound wide receiver with skills than to be a 6'5", 215-pound power forward. It's so much better. And he's so incredible. He's got so many Julio Jones type attributes about him. But Amir Abdullah. I think Keith Mixon is Amir Abdullah. I don't think there's any way around it. I think that Alabama and Auburn just flat out missed the boat, and I get it. Both teams recruit, especially Alabama, more nationally. They're probably in the state Nick Saban hadn't hit. Besides Hawaii and Alaska. He's been everywhere to get a player since he's been at Alabama. And I love him, and it's great, and it's fantastic. But that does mean you miss out on guys who are right here in our backyard. And Mississippi State is absolutely cleaning up. They just got a commitment from Darrell Williams, not the linebacker committed to Auburn from Hoover, but the Darrell Williams at was it Bessemer? No, is it Minor? No, Bessemer City. And he is the center there, and he's a fantastic player. And he's going to Mississippi State. I talked about Nick Gibson from Pinson Valley. He's going to Mississippi State. Keith Mixon's going to Mississippi State. Darren Payne may even follow to Mississippi State. So I think that they're really reaping the rewards from this. And here's the thing about players like Keith Mixon. I don't think he's a danger to leave early for the NFL. And you say, why is that good? Well, that means he'll be here for 4 years. And if he ends up being good, like Amir Abdullah, they're going to hang around. And Amir Abdullah is probably in my opinion, the best senior running back available in the draft. And it kind of worked out for Corey Grant in a sense. This year hadn't gone the way Corey Grant certainly wanted it to. But at the beginning of the season, Corey Grant was on that list of best senior running backs. And you just get your name out there. It's a good thing. Now, again, Corey Grant hadn't been that great this year. So it may be a bad example, but Amir Abdullah certainly has been. He went over 200 and something yards again last week. And without him, Nebraska may only have 2 wins.
So that's what I wanted to get to. Players like Amir Abdullah, and we'll stay on the Mississippi State side, and that's how you can build a program. Even we'll even look at UAB too. Some players that probably get missed out on by Auburn, Alabama, and they're just not as quality player. Not to take anything against Derunya Wilson, because obviously he's putting up monster numbers, but it benefits Mississippi State more for us to not, or Auburn, Alabama, to not go after players like that, because they're going right in. They've gone into Birmingham the last 3 or 4 years, especially since Mullen's been there, and that's been their main stomping ground. So you look at a lot of the players. Ralph was from Birmingham, or maybe he was from Montgomery. Actually, I take that back. But again, Mississippi State coming over and trying to steal players, and I think that's how a team like Mississippi State stays competitive, because they're never going to be a top 5 team recruiting wise. Right. That won't happen. Now, Ole Miss, on the other hand, has an opportunity to do so, and so I know you guys will talk about that on the next show. But of the two, between Ole Miss and Mississippi State, I think that Ole Miss is more sustainable because they'll be able to recruit going forward. But again, Benjamin Russell, speaking of the recruiting trail, has an opportunity to put some guys out there. Q Johnson, 7 catches, 77 yards on Friday, and there were some scouts from West Alabama at that game, and I think that he thoroughly impressed them, and that's what you would want to see from a school like Benjamin Russell, where we may not at this stage have the caliber of players like we did maybe a decade ago when we were putting guys in the SEC on a yearly basis. But I think now that Danny has an opportunity to start winning more games and putting guys in college that otherwise may not have gone. But again, we'd love to hear from you. 256-234-6221 is the number to dial in. And as I said, we'll have a very special guest, Demetrius Fleeson, and his flag football team representing the Alexander City Parks and Rec. And we thank Sonny Wilson and all that he does there for them as well. So, Luke, we'll go ahead and take another break. And when we return, we'll have flag football team representing Alex City Parks and Rec. More of the Late Morning Sports Roundup show live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
All right, good. Take it away.
Welcome back into the Late Morning Sports Roundup show, live here on location in beautiful downtown Alexander City at JR Sports Bar and Grill. 256-329-2328 is the number to dial in for JRs, and they'll be able to take care of any of your catering needs. And you can also come in and dine in as well. Right now, we want to welcome in a very special guest, and this will be the third week in a row we've had some of these members up here. Welcome in Coach Demetrius Fleeson and his flag football team representing the Alexander City Parks and Rec. So, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, it's a privilege to be back on, man. I thank y'all guys.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna ask you kind of what I asked the guys before. Obviously, this is fundamental stage of things, but how are they grasping, I guess, the playbook or the plays that you're putting in week to week?
Well, every week to week, man, I coach you guys hard, but, you know, at the age of 5 and 6, Scott, they getting it pretty quickly, man. And each week, man, they progressing each week, every week. And I see it out there on the field every Thursday. We practice on Sundays and Tuesdays. You know, most of my guys be there. You know, they give 100%, man. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, and so again, that how I guess as a coach, how does that affect you when you're able to see and help some guys because you know you're I would say a little local legend around and you've been involved with Parks and Recs for a while now. What does that do for you to be able to watch these kids progress like that?
Man, it really a privilege, guy, because, as we were growing up, we didn't have like a real legend teaching us the fundamentals of the game. So now, man, that I done traveled a lot of places and meet some new people, man. It really brightens my day up to go out there and watch these kids, man, and progress each and every day, man. And I sure do appreciate them a lot.
And so before we get them on, I did want to ask you about that. I didn't know if you were still making an attempt with any basketball or anything like that.
Yeah, man. Matter of fact, man, I'm leaving this Friday to go out to Atlanta, man, with a little semi-pro basketball team. And, I'm just praying to God that, He opened the door up for me, man, And I'm going to just give him all out there, man.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you good luck on that. But what we want to do right now is we'll go ahead and introduce your flag football team. And, guys, if you don't mind, you can come up to Luke and you just say your name and what position you play.
Come on up, guys. Well, one at a time. What's your name, big man?
My name is Red, and I play quarterback.
Good job. Let's get the next one up.
My name is Tyler, and I play quarterback and wide receiver.
I got one to eat the mic.
My name is Braylon, and I play running back.
Definitely the most energized group we've had up here.
My name is Dylan, and I play center. My name is Jay, and I play running back.
Got a lot of running backs.
I know, man. Golly.
And I'm quarterback.
And a lot of quarterbacks.
My what?
We got to go check with Mama about to find out what our name is.
My name is Daryl, and I'm the quarterback. I'm a receiver.
There you
A
go.
receiver. There we go.
My name is Jamaica. I play wide receiver.
There you go.
Who's left? We just one guy left?
What Jacob at?
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure,
wait a minute.
even if Jacob didn't come, Jacob, what's his name?
Jacob Davis.
Jacob Davis.
He's my inside linebacker.
Inside linebacker. Yeah, and so, again, that's got to be exciting, and that's the main thing. Is even if I know you want to win the game each week, but when you have the opportunity to help and give back to the community, I know that's something you and Sonny and the rest of the Parks and Rec staff, make sure that there's so much available for these kids to do. And like you said, this was something we didn't even have. So
right.
I'm sure we would enjoy having a flag football team as well and just getting the fundamentals. So I can tell that you enjoy it, not only you enjoying it, but them enjoying it as well.
Yeah, man. It's man. To be actually, Scott, man, we in first place, man. We 4-0. I just try to keep them with a level head, man, because at that age they get to picking at the other guys and say they get the big head. So I just try to keep them with a level head, though, man. But it's all fun, though.
Absolutely, and nobody had more fun than Fuji Fleet. So again, we appreciate you guys coming up here and joining us. If there's anything we can do, just let us know and check you guys out and play. When can watch you play?
Man, we play the Falcons this Thursday at 5:30, man, at the Sportz out there on the softball field. If anybody out there, welcome to come, man. It's gonna be an exciting game.
Absolutely. Well, that was Fuji Felician and his flag football team representing the Alexandria City Parks and Rec. We'll go ahead and take another break. More of the Late Morning Sports Roundup show live here on location at Jarrah Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
I'm going to try and get that. 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Three,
I didn't
2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back into the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. Just had a wonderful segment with the Alexander City flag football team, coached by Demetrius Fleecian, and I know that somebody that competed against him as a younger child, I know that he enjoys competing like the best of them. But Luke, in a minute or so, we will have the opportunity to. The first unveiling of the rankings for the playoff committee will be today, or the playoff bracket will be today, and we kind of were looking at some things of what scenarios we thought long-term it would be, and I guess my prediction somehow did not come to fruition already. I can see now there's no possible way to do it, but Luke, I wanted to get your I know you wrote an article in the Outlook today about it, what your projected four would be.
Well, my projected four as of this minute, meaning the four most deserving teams, I think Mississippi State and Florida State are have-tos. I mean, they're both undefeated power conference teams, and I don't think there's any way around putting them in there right this minute. Do I think they'll be in there in the end? Definitely not Mississippi State, maybe not Florida State. But so my four right this minute would be Mississippi State, Florida State, Alabama, and TCU. I think those are the four most and deserving. Also, the ones that pass the eye test. What kind of mix of offense and defense do you have? If you have a loss, who's that to, and how did it happen? Obviously, how have you done against the competition you've played? I put in the paper, I may be being a bit of a homer here, putting Alabama in lieu of Auburn, but if you put Auburn there, you're being a homer too.
I defended you today. Somebody brought that to my attention. They said, of course, Luke was going to put
give
Alabama
me a reason
why.
why.
And I said, if you read forward, I will say he did make a good point, because I would obviously say Auburn needed to be in.
Tell me why you would put Auburn in now, especially considering that, okay, you could say, well, their only loss was to Mississippi State, who's number one, and I say that's okay, but at the same time, when Alabama lost to Ole Miss, I would say they were about the best team in the country too, and Alabama had a shot to win that game. I mean, Alabama was, in fact, in the lead most of that game. Auburn was never in the Mississippi State game, never in it.
Well, my only, I guess, rationale I'd say with Auburn, though, is if you look at their resume, they did go to the number 11 team in the country that's ranked right now in Kansas State. Their only loss is on the road against Mississippi State, which was now the number one team in the country. They more than likely, if things go how I think would happen, they probably will beat Ole Miss too. So I guess right now I don't really have any qualms about it, because it doesn't really matter.
Well, and see, here's the other thing that I look at. How have you looked against other competition? Auburn didn't look good against South Carolina. Their defense looked terrible. But South Carolina's not very good.
If you look, okay, in that rationale, now granted, Arkansas is definitely a different team in game one than they were when they played Alabama. But that's a common opponent, and Alabama was 14-13, Auburn 45-21.
On the road.
On the road, okay, fair enough. However, but
and coming off a much tougher game.
A team that hadn't won a conference game in 2 years.
Agreed. But they also did. They held Arkansas to 89 yards rushing. If you remember, the Auburn game was tied 21-21 at the half.
I think they're the same team. I think Alabama is whoever your preference is. They both had a tough loss, both against Mississippi schools. Both went and had a tough game on the road and won at A&M. Or excuse me, who'd y'all play on the road? No.
Well, we've played Ole Miss and Tennessee and Arkansas on the road. And we played West Virginia in a neutral fight, which that win looks a lot better. But I would also say, the cynic in me would say, okay, West Virginia is probably a little better now than they were then, but I would argue Alabama's better now than they were then too. Going back to the Ole Miss game, I keep hearing a debate for Oregon saying, well, they had this guy hurt and that guy hurt, and people continue to say, well, they only have one loss to Arizona when they had a bunch of people hurt. Number one, Alabama had lost their center in the Ole Miss game. There's just about nobody more invaluable except quarterback. Then they also lost their most dynamic player in Kenyon Drake, and they were down Denzel Duvall in that game. So I think if you're going to give Oregon credit, then you have to give Alabama credit there too. Oregon also lost as a 24-point favorite. I don't care that Arizona's a little bit better. And people want to put Oregon in. Why don't you put Arizona in then? They only have one loss. They have a close loss at home to USC. That's it. So if you're going to put Oregon in, why not put Arizona in if head-to-head means so much?
I'm gonna ask you this. How much is perception going to play in this? And I don't know. I guess they're going and letting them fall down now. But from an SEC perspective, what do you think is going to happen? Let's say they go Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, and Oregon. So that's the four. Who do you think is going to be more upset if the team left out? Somebody like a Florida State or an SEC fan base, like in Auburn and Alabama? Not right now, but going forward. Like if for some reason Florida State gets a loss, which at Louisville or against Louisville this Thursday could be the only test left I really think they have.
That is, to me, they're blowing smoke around us, at least, trying to make us think this Louisville game should be tough. Florida State should blow their doors off. Louisville's not that great. I know the line has dropped from Florida State, maybe a 10-point favorite, to Florida State only a 3.5-point favorite. That is very fishy. I don't know exactly what that means. Somebody may be suspended. Somebody may be hurt. Carlos Williams, I know he's in trouble for possibly assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. I don't know. Should Florida State be really upset? I mean, you want to talk about playing nobody. Florida State's getting credit for winning the last national championship last year. They have not looked that good this year. I mean, in my opinion, they have not looked good at all. Their best win may be against an Oklahoma State team that just got blown out at home by West Virginia. Or I take that back. Their best win's against Notre Dame, and it happened on a questionable call.
Well, I'm looking at it now, and they're saying that Marshall isn't ranked in the top 25, and I wanted to get your opinion on that. Would a team like Marshall deserve to go?
No, not even a remote possibility. I mean, and that's what bothers me about people who get so wrapped up in this team's undefeated, this team has one loss. One loss or two losses in the SEC is different than no losses or one loss in the ACC by a long shot. It's better. I mean, Justin just texted me something. Alabama hadn't beaten a team with an SEC winning record, but let me tell you something. Who would have beaten Texas A&M that day they played South Carolina? How many teams would have beaten? How many teams in the country can do what Alabama's about to do? Go to LSU, come home to the number one team in the country. Auburn too. I mean, use them as an example. I just know Alabama's schedule by heart. They're going to play Coosa County after that. Then they play Auburn, who's going to be highly ranked, even if they have another loss. Then if they win all those, if the prize is getting to play a Georgia team, that'll still be very good. Then they will have to play a semifinal team, and if they win that, a finalist team. I don't know that the Pittsburgh Steelers could win that. So that's why I don't know that Alabama can make it there. That was my whole argument today. What SEC team is going to be able to do that? Most of them have to run that same gauntlet. Auburn does. Mississippi State's, they got to go to Alabama, and see, most people are going to look at that and say, if you don't win that game, you don't deserve to go. I think that's what most people are going to look at. That's going to be their litmus test.
It's right now.
Auburn actually made the Final Four.
Number 3. Oh, so Mississippi State's 1, Florida State 2, Auburn 3. So I'm assuming that would be
either Oregon or TCU. I would have TCU there if that's what you're doing. Now, wait a minute. I don't know. They're saying the possibilities are Alabama, Ole Miss, and Oregon. I mean, I would put TCU or Alabama there. Those would be my only two choices. Oregon.
TCU was at 7. So it looks like Alabama and Oregon split 5 and 6, probably.
I mean, again, and people are going to kill me for saying, well, Ole Miss won head-to-head, and they did, and that's true. But the season is fluid. You keep moving forward, and Ole Miss gets in. Is that what I'm saying?
I mean –
how do you put them in when they just lost to LSU 10-7?
This could be.
This is why you don't have a committee. They are about to screw this up as royally. All you playoff people who just think this is fantastic, that is messed up. I'm about to use another word. That is incredibly.
Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, Ole Miss are
non-SEC fans are about to lose their mind, and they're not even losing their mind with Alabama in it.
That's the crazy thing. I mean, obviously, the question there, Joe Shad asked a question earlier. It looks so Oregon 5, Alabama 6.
Wow.
So, yeah, this could be. Do you think that speaks to someone they're making a point? And it really doesn't. I mean, what are they saying?
Well, tell me what rational person could have Oregon above Alabama? I mean, that's why this committee is terrible. What rational person can say Oregon's loss at home against a 24-point underdog is better than Alabama losing on the road to Ole Miss, the only time in their history they've had game day there. And Alabama led most of the time. Oregon wasn't in the lead most of that game.
I mean, this may be one of the few times that I'm going to cut you guys some slack, because I definitely would have – I actually would have thought you guys would have been in there before Auburn would have been, just because Auburn hadn't played. So even after they played last week. I know I wish you guys really knew how Luke – he's pretty upset.
No, I don't care that Alabama's not in.
No, that's fine. I mean, over the teams
it'll
that you have
play
in
itself
there.
out. To have Oregon above Alabama, Ole Miss, or Auburn would be a travesty, and it is a travesty. It's a joke, and that's why this committee is about to get it wrong. The first shot out the gate, they've screwed it up.
Well, 3 teams in the top 4 represent the college football projections right now for the playoff bracket, and I'm a little shocked again. Ole Miss gets in over Oregon and Alabama, not even necessarily Alabama, but Oregon too, and that they're even TCU. So there's some other teams that I would have even thought would have gotten in over in Oregon just by how they lost, but they lost so early in the season, and I guess it has to do with what you said. I guess they're looking at which the playoff committee said they were going to do is look at who you had when you played the teams, and so I guess we'll see how it goes. But I'm a little shocked, to say the least, at how it panned out.
Is Joe Shad in trouble here? He said Auburn is 3, the highest ranked. Isn't Mississippi State 1?
Yeah, so I don't know really what he's saying. Oh, wow. So this is just all the way around. What we're going to do.
This is folks, all you people who wanted a playoff, you got it. And I'm telling you what, it's going to get so much worse than this. You don't understand. If you think, and I know this one doesn't really matter because Alabama has to play Auburn and Mississippi State. Mississippi State has to play Alabama and Ole Miss, and I know all that stuff. But if you don't think they're going to mess this up as bad as humanly possible, the first shot out the gate is a total sham.
And I think this could be. I don't really know how factual this is, so I guess they'll be doing it every Tuesday. But again, I'd like to hear the conversations that are going on in this room, especially based on the people who are representing the committee, because there are several people on the committee that I don't think necessarily were justified selections. But again, that's who they went with, and we're stuck with it for the time being. But I think Auburn benefits tremendously by having Kansas State in at number 9 and LSU now number 19. So the better LSU does and the better Kansas State does the rest of the season, it's going to bode well for Auburn. And the same thing can be said for an Alabama team who still has, I guess they're looking, I don't really know your strength schedule. West Virginia, I guess, if West Virginia beats TCU this week, then that would help. So there's a lot of things that can be balanced out and taken care of here going forward.
They have Georgia at 11. A lot of people had Georgia in there. Georgia over Kansas State. I mean, I'm just going to tell you what, folks, I think this is an absolute joke. I don't know how else to say it. I don't care that Alabama's not in it. I am deeply concerned that they have Oregon above any SEC West team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. What we'll do, we'll go ahead and take another break, give Luke and I a chance to kind of go over this information a little bit. Broke while we were on the show. We'll go ahead and take another break. More of the Lake Morton Sports Roundup show live here on location at Jarrah Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
All right, you're off. 3, 2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back to the Late Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill in beautiful downtown Alexander City. And we have had a very exciting and action-packed show tonight. We've dived into high school football and talked about some projection playoff-wise. Before we continue going any further, I know we were talking a little bit about the inaugural playoff rankings, and I want to make sure we get back to that. But what we'll do is run down some of the scores again from last Friday's action. Benjamin Russell 24-0 over Chilton County, finishing 9-1 on the year. So again, big win for Benjamin Russell there. Hopefully they'll be able to get rested up and get healed up as they prepare for Stanhope next week. They have a bye this week, and they'll get prepared for their first round matchup of the playoffs next week. Horseshoe Bend loses 35-0 against Randolph County, and both Horseshoe Bend and Central Coosa 1-8 on the year. So they'll be looking for the opportunity to get their second win as they'll take off against each other this Friday. Dayville 34-6 against Hanley, a much-needed win for Dayville. Again, a team that's been a little Jekyll and Hyde at times during the season. A loss last week, but coming back this past Friday and getting the win. So again, 34-6 for Dayville over Hanley. Reeltown continues its dominating ways, finishing 9-1 on the season. Reeltown 26, Lynette 19. We also see Central Coosa, as I said, beating BB Comer, and this was one that many thought BB Comer would win, but Central Coosa and BB Comer both struggling on the season, but Central Coosa wins 24-22. Carver Montgomery beats Wetumpka 23-7, and you look at Tallahassee 34-7 over Sylacauga, and Stanhope Elmore beat Park Crossing, which is a team that I think is on the rise here in the state of Alabama, and they beat Carver a couple of weeks ago, but Stanhope 42-18, and that'll be the team that Benjamin Russell will take on in their first round matchup. So again, those were your scores from Friday night, and we look forward to having this week off for Benjamin Russell, especially because they will need it. A lot of the players have been dinged up the last couple of weeks, and so it'll be good to get them some rest and get them prepared for the week game against Stanhope Elmore this coming up next Friday. But again, the inaugural college football playoff rankings were released today and just a few minutes ago, and we'll run down the top four: Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, and Ole Miss. So three teams from the SEC West in particular make the playoff, and Luke and I were debating this before the show, whether or not Oregon deserved to be in there, and Oregon gets left out over an Ole Miss team who just got beat against LSU, and a team that I thought LSU shouldn't have even had the opportunity to win the game, and Ole Miss allowed them. LSU 4 turnovers. Ole Miss still loses the game, so I guess they're looking at it from that perspective. But again, Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, Ole Miss, your inaugural college football rankings for the playoff. Oregon 5, Alabama 6, TCU 7, Michigan State 8, Kansas State 9, and Notre Dame 10, rounding out your top 10. And again, Georgia at 11, they're right outside the top 10. But again, a lot of these teams are one-loss teams, and they have the opportunity to kind of create their own destiny. If you win, you're in, and that's pretty much every game from this point on will be a playoff game. Ole Miss versus Auburn this week will be an elimination game. You'll see that in a couple of weeks when Mississippi State plays Alabama. So if you're one of the teams that didn't get in, if you're one of the members of the fan base of a team that didn't get in, don't be too concerned, because again, if you just allow it to play out, it will fix itself. But again, I'm a little disappointed in how the rankings were taking place. And so I think this could be an indication of where this committee is thinking. And I just can't see in any situation possible after losing the way they did this past Saturday. Ole Miss deserved to be in the top 4. Not even really saying Auburn or Alabama, but Alabama number 6. And in my opinion, had I did the projections today, I would have really had a different Final Four. But you're looking at a situation where this is just the initial ranking. So you'll have an opportunity to see your team get forward, hopefully, and they'll do what they need to do. But we'll go ahead and take our last break of the evening, and when we return, we'll finish up and recap the show. More of the Late Morning Sports Roundup show, live here in location at JR Sports Bar and Grill, right after this.
All right, you're off.
Appreciate it. Roundup show, live here on location at Jarrah Sports Bar and Grill. And this is the last segment of the evening. And as I said, it's been a very action-packed show. We had the opportunity to have another flag football team on representing the Alexander City Parks and Rec. And we appreciate Sonny Wilson providing those contacts for us there, and for Demetrius Fuji Felician, if you will, for coming up and bringing this team up. So good luck to his team as they prepare for a matchup against the Falcons this Thursday, another team that we had on. But again, this is a do or die week for a lot of football teams around the state. A lot of the region shakings will stand out then, and you'll be able to get an actual playoff bracket. But again, we know what Benjamin Russell in this area, what they'll be going up against. They have San Hope Elmore next Friday at home. That'll be a game that they host. And you also see some other teams in the area like a Dable, who will be both Dable and Benjamin Russell have the number 2 seed there. So actually it looks Benjamin Russell, Dable, and Reeltown. So all 3 teams that made the playoffs in our area clinched the number 2 seed and will be hosting hosting the first round of the playoffs for them. So again, it looks like it'll be another exciting October, November for the teams around this area. But again, Dable is set to host Trinity in round 1, and Trinity a 5-5 team on the year. So hopefully Dable will be able to take care of that. And again, Class 2A, number 8 Reeltown will host Hatton, and Hatton as in its first team's playoff race this season. But again, I really wanted to check back in and give you guys a quick update. Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, and Ole Miss is your inaugural rankings of the college football playoffs. And I can't say that I'm displeased with it as an Auburn fan, but looking at it, there is a little discrepancy there on whether or not some of these teams deserve to actually be as high as they are. But if you're looking at the breakdown, the top 3 conferences, the SEC is represented by 7 teams, 5 of those in the top 11. Pac-12, 5 teams, Big 12, 5 teams, and they're scattered out the rest of the way there. But again, you look at a team like Mississippi State, who is undefeated at the moment, definitely deserves their ranking. Florida State, national champion from last season, probably getting the benefit of the doubt there. Haven't played the best football, but they are undefeated. Another team that's undefeated on the season, but is not projected in the top 25 right now, and that is Marshall, a team that I think has the opportunity to run the table the rest of the season. But as Luke alluded to, he doesn't think that going undefeated in that week of competition would warrant them the opportunity to play for a national championship. But the one thing that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised about, and Twitter is lighting up right now, is the fact that Alabama was left out of the top 4, and not necessarily that they were left out of the top 4, but left out of the top 4 against an Ole Miss team, or by an Ole Miss team that just got beat by LSU. So again, it doesn't really matter at this point what happens. It's only week 8, so the initial rankings came out this week. But look for a lot of shakeup next week. Elimination game automatically this weekend against Ole Miss and Auburn. So I love that aspect is brought to the playoff system now. The regular season is going to mean much more, but I'm not real positive that the playoff committee got it right. So I'm a little nervous to see how this goes forward. But again, hopefully things will get situated out. But again, before we let you go, Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Historic night here tonight. Inaugural college football playoff rankings were released, and I'm sure the guys on Sports Blitz, Luke and I think will open the show, and then Brett will come over a little bit, I think an hour or two. So we'll dive into that. But for Luke Robinson, I'm Scott Hardy saying thanks for joining the show. See you next week.
All right, you're off.